Can Deaf Children Learn English by moi, by Destiny Mathis. This is a little awkward, so I'm sorry if I'm moving around, and my computer is over there, so I'll just bend over and do that real quick. But I want you guys to imagine you guys go to, let's say, Japan, and you're trying to learn, or just a boarding school. You're going to a boarding school to learn better education, and you don't know English at all. Like, you just don't understand English. That's not your first language at all. But you go somewhere else. You hear English multiple times before and you don't understand it. And you go somewhere far away and you're at Japan or anywhere, and they're trying to teach you, but it's broken English. Or they're doing a terrible, terrible job. So that's what deaf children go through. I know let's say biology. Classes, for example. We don't understand classes. If I went to this year, I dropped out of the class because of this reason. I went to a biology class. I went to Bio 150. I hadn't done biology in forever. The last time I did biology was like middle school. So I haven't done biology in forever. It's been a long time, and I just jump right into 150. I've never done any of the board, paramat, that stuff. So I went in there, completely just went over my head. I missed the first day of class, and they already talked about it in the second day. So it just went over my head. Everything did, and I didn't understand anything that was going on. I took the test. I got a 40 out of 200. And it was just terrible, and I had to drop class because it was so frustrating. So this is what deaf children go through every single day, and it's not okay, and it's sad, honestly. So we're going to talk about what the problem is. What the problem is, we have teachers that don't teach proper ASL. We're going to talk about the solution, what we can do to improve those, and what the benefits are if we do improve it. Like, what can we do to move the solution into making teachers better, and what are the benefits, and what is the benefits of you guys learning and bringing it out. So we're going to get into that. So the problem is, children are when in public school, for example, children in public school, deaf children in public school, they always lag behind. The teacher always relies on lip reading. So only 30 to 40 of spoken English is distinguishable on the lips. Students who rely on lip reading often perform better when it is a subject they're familiar with. So they can do really, really good if they learned that subject before. Just like any of us, if we go to a class that we know, we can pick up that class so well without even listening to it, right? This is by Marlene L. Weber. She was the president and COO of Deaf Interpreting Services, and she's got a lot of things, which we're going to go to another quote with hers. But so only 30% of spoken English is distinguishable on the lips. Like I said before, they don't have super lip reading powers. If they don't know any of what they're talking about, they're going to completely fly over their head, which I agree. So we have that. Lag time is so bad. Lagging in class, they can't pick it up well, and it's just, they don't learn anything in public school systems. The teachers always want to put oralism into their heads. They miss most of their class time being with oralism. My teacher had a partner with a student. He worked at NIC for a while. His name was Dennis, and he was a deaf guy. And he always said his experience with oralism and learning how to do it. There was a guy who had a popsicle stick, and they have to. It's really stupid when they do it. I think it's really stupid. They go ah, and then they put it into the kid's mouth. He put it in his mouth, and then he put it in his mouth. Like, saying saliva. It was disgusting. And Dennis is terrified of popsicle sticks now. He does not, when he eats ice cream, he eats it off and throws it away. Hates it. So, a lot of children have very bad memories of oralism in public school. Public school system for deaf children is just not the way to go. Now, according to LAO, Legislative Analysis Offices, deaf and hard of hearing students perform relatively poorly on statewide assessments, with fewer than 35% scoring at or above grade level on reading or writing and mathematics. So, deaf children are right here. So this is the chart when it comes to lag behind other student groups in statewide assessments. Deaf children are not very. This is in some of this is more in California because it's LAL is in California, but this is the chart right here. This is deaf children seem to struggle more than hard of hearing, because hard of hearing, they're not so deaf, but they're a little deaf. Those are mostly cochlear implants, people who have hearing loss in one ear or something like that. Even all special education, English learners, low income, and all students. So deaf children have a lot of problem learning in public school systems. So what else can they do? Residential schools, right? So why don't they just learn English? Residential schools are still so terrible. There's so many deaf children who go to residential schools, and to remind you, residential schools are pretty far away from where they are at. So they have to go away from their family, and they go to residential schools where they think they're going to learn ASL. A lot of people are like, oh, residential schools for the deaf, they're going to learn ASL. No, usually they learn PSE, or they do oralism like they did before. A lot of people have this question, why don't they just learn English? How can you learn English if you don't have your first language? Let's say somebody from Korea heard they've never had Korean. They're just never had their language. They've picked it up, some of it, but not really. And then they just go straight to English. That would have been our state or anything, if like Spanish. If that was happening in our society would be going crazy. But no, ASL is just English. It's not true. It's completely switched around. It might have English-based words, but just like Spanish got English-based words, but they're not English. It's that's what it is. So they can't just learn English like that. Residential schools still put so much pressure on these deaf children. Children who are deaf often tend to feel uncomfortable in the classroom when drawing attention to their hearing problem. They want to believe they're normal friends who are hearing, so it drives them to keep themselves distant and don't take part in class. So with public school, they just feel so alone. Whereas when they go to residential schools, this is one thing every deaf person says, that it might not be good education, but they always found themselves with their other deaf friends. They grow up in their hearing family, or even a deaf adults, but they still think that they're the only ones. And when they go to residential schools, they pick up ASL a little bit, and they always go back to each other, which is amazing. So that's why they just can't learn English, and why residential schools are so important. But what can we do to fix this solution? So this is an artist. I can't pronounce his name, but this picture is so important for deaf people. So obviously this is like a CI, which is a cochlear implant, and it's emotional. But so how can we fix the solution to not make it that possible? Well, a lot of people don't really sign. Hearing people before, ASL is brand new. Like I said before, 200 years old, brand new language. So it's really important for them. It was really important. They were only doing AAs for education, for ASL, for interpreting services, or anything like that. So they only had 2 years of learning a new language, which didn't make it much sense. So a lot of people who are teachers in residential schools are they're not strong ASL users at all. So how can we fix that? Well, we can try to take some ASL classes. I'm trying to be an educator right now, get my major. It's so important. If we just talk about it and bring people around, we can for 100% teach these deaf children strong ASL. And once those kids learn ASL, those deaf children are going to teach too, because they look up to people with ASL. Look up. So if we just look up to them, so if deaf children look up to us and see our ASL, they're going to be strong ASL users, and they're going to want to be teachers. They're going to have such a good education, and they're going to have what they need. And just like hearing schools, public schools and private schools, they've got that. They've got that learning and that their language. Why can't we do this for deaf children? So if deaf children are teachers, that means their culture is just going to get stronger, and their language is going to get so much stronger, and we won't have to deal with things like this. They won't have to go through struggles like this. So, what is the solution? That is the solution. We need to, as hearing people, need to go out and reach out to other hearing people and show them that this is what we can do. This is how we can talk about ASL. Nobody knows about ASL sometimes. It knows about deaf people. And if we can just talk about it and bring people together and even learn ASL, and I'm trying to talk about it right now in class, we can do it. We can 100% do it. So, what are the benefits of learning ASL? What are the benefits? So, we can teach ASL to deaf children. Awesome, right? Better educators. Train educators in residential schools rather than just 2 years, which I just talked about. That means better training deaf people in those residential schools become the teachers. We talked about that too. What does the residential school mean for deaf children? Why is that so important to them? They have those other deaf people to connect with, and where they only feel alone, right? So, benefits again. So we can make friends in ASL classes. We can talk under the table. Wow, I said stable. Under the table in front of teachers, deaf educators, and ASL slowly becoming accepted as a language, which I fully believe is. As soon as we make this larger, we can always, they'll be accepted as a language. Also, learning causes you to open your eyes to become a better listener and communicator and multitasker. According to website Smack Happy, while learning a new language, you become more aware of grammar, conjunctions, and sentence structure. So you can learn ASL and even learn your language even more so, because you become more aware on what to do. And in most classrooms, like I'm in linguistics, I'm learning more about my language every single day. So as long as we have, these are all the benefits. You can talk under a table with your friends. I talk to my friends all the way over there. I can be signing to them and I can ask them to bring me something. It's fun. It's a beautiful language. There's so many benefits and it's amazing. So now that we talked about all this and what we can do and what the solution is, we can bring this all together. We can unite in it. We can talk to our friends and we can bring and show people. I know I go outside and I can use ASL and they're just like, whoa. And then I'm just like, yeah, maybe we should do an ASL class. And they always get interested in it. So if you just talk about it lightly, then it's fine. If you have deaf friends or deaf relatives, maybe learn from them a little bit. It's as simple as that. So we learned a lot today, and I'm very passionate about this whole thing, and I'm hoping that you guys are too. So it's just as simple as that. We just need to talk about this more and maybe take some classes at NIC. NIC 4-credit, 5-credit class. What's gonna hurt, right? So that is all, and I hope that you guys I hope this inspires you guys to become an ASL user and learn about it a lot more, because it's honestly a fun language. And if you need any details, you can always hit me up. So that's all for you. I have for you guys.